What's going on, America? This is Kevin at Kevin's Corner, trying to make some sense out of nonsense. Now, you know what doesn't make sense to me is that two men would walk into a bakery, Christian bakery, and request a cake. And they let the baker know that they're about to get married under the new federal law that allows same-sex marriage. And yet, when the baker says that he doesn't feel comfortable baking the cake or using his gift or talents to, I guess, express something that morally he does not believe in, these two decide to go and tattletale on the bakery because he refused to do that, as if this was, for whatever reason, some form of hate or discrimination, versus just simply disagreeing with something that kind of pricks his conscience. So it goes all the way to the Supreme Court. And in the process of doing that, though, it ruins the bakery's business. He goes out of business over all of the hysteria, all of the national attention, all of the boycotting. And I think it is cases like this that make people in America say, you know what? If that's something that I have to go through, just because I'm not in agreement with a social norm or behavior, or just because I'm not being politically correct, that is what drives people to the polls and say, I'm going to vote in people who respect my freedom of choice and also respect my ability to practice my religious beliefs. And, and it's nothing against people that are gay. See, I think sometimes there's this stereotype that normal Americans are running around looking for people that are different, people that are gay, maybe transgender, whatever. Frankly, I don't think anybody cares. Nobody cares what you do individually. I don't know about you, but I don't. But what I do care about is when people come knocking on my door saying, you need to care about what I care about. You need to believe what I need to believe. That's when I have a problem with it. And I think those are the type of issues that come up and cause a lot of normal Americans to say, you know what? Who's telling Americans that you don't have to do that? You don't have to sit back and say, oh man, I got to tiptoe around on eggshells. My business might go out of business because I don't agree with something. The politicians that get up there and they say, look, we respect everybody's individual rights and choices, but we're not going to force your rights and choices on somebody else's. So this is now in the Supreme Court and everybody's trying to decide how it's all going to play out. Are the states going to get involved and say, no, you have to do this or not? And what kind of gets me is that I don't think that it is simply about making sure that these two gentlemen are allowed to receive these benefits or the cake. In my opinion, I'm going, why didn't you just maybe go down the street to another cake bakery that would have done it and not had a problem with it, frankly. But nonetheless, they had to get it done there. They were offended that they wouldn't serve them. And people try to bring up this argument that is comparable to the civil rights movement. And they said, well, you know what? Remember back in the 60s when they wouldn't serve black people inside of the barbecue shack? You can't discriminate against people because of their race. You're right. Not because of their race, but maybe because of their own personal choices. See, when people choose to get married and you're gay, that's what it is. It's a choice. I didn't choose to be born black. I'm just black. So my point is, how can you get upset that somebody do not agree with your personal choices? And for whatever reason, they don't want to lend their gift to, see, it's not service. He has to make the cake. It's something creative. He has to put some thought into it. He has to believe in the cake. But if he doesn't, then he's going, man, I'm just going to put together a sloppy cake. Both grooms leaning to the left, looking nuts, don't even look like two men. You know, my point is, they were going to force him to do something he disagreed with. He probably would have given a half-behind job. Nonetheless, they were so upset they went and tapped, you know, he won't make a cake for us. And now it's all the way to the Supreme Court. So if a group or a couple says, okay, I want to do this. This is my choice. And it is legal under national or federal law or whatever. By all means, do what you want to do. But don't be shocked if there are people who just aren't ready for that change, or people who don't believe in that change. And if you want people to accept your choices, you don't shove it down their throat. That's the worst thing you can do. By shoving things down their throat, you cause them to resist your movement, you know. And so if they want to believe in it and support it, by all means. If they don't go around and persecute them and say their disagreement means that they're homophobic and they hate you and this and that. I don't believe that the average American is riding around in a car all day like, let's go find these homosexuals so we can jump out the van and get them. I just don't think that's happening. You know, I don't hear of, now granted, I haven't done any research to check out any statistics, but I don't hear overwhelming amount of reporting in the news of just violent attacks against homosexuals, or transgenders and so on and so forth. But when a case happens and it's politicized, you would think this is a huge epidemic in America. And that's what drives legislation to accommodate a small group of people in America that, for whatever reason, is blown up to seem like this is a major, major issue. And every single one of the people who are in that interest group are victims. And oftentimes it's just a small portion or individual isolated case. And so this goes all the way to the Supreme Court. And now we're awaiting it. But I'm going to tell you, this is how I know it's nothing but political. If that bakery was a Muslim bakery and two gay men walked into there and said, we want to get married. And the baker said, no. See, my religious beliefs will not allow me to make a cake for two men that want to get married. Do you think that it would have went all the way to the Supreme Court? Do you think that the media would have jumped all over this, the liberal media? Do you think that the Democratic liberal politicians would have weighed in on it? No, they would have all scattered away from that like roaches. Why? Because you got two competing social issues. So my point is, a large portion of Americans, liberal media and progressives, are hypersensitive to the Muslim religion, to Muslims, to Islam. At the same time, they're also hypersensitive to the gay agenda, to the transgender agenda, all of those things. So now they would have to make a choice. They can't say, well, this conservative Muslim bakery is discriminating, because then it would appear that they're not supporting the Muslim religion and the Muslim community. And so right now they're hypersensitive when it comes to Islam, when it comes to the Muslim community, because they don't want to appear to seem like they're anti-Muslim or anti-Islam. But at the same time, the liberals are hypersensitive to the gay and lesbian community because they don't want to seem like they are anti-gay or anti-lesbian. And it would have created a conflict of interest, and they would have walked away from it, and it probably would never have gotten this type of national attention. But because it was a Christian bakery, and right about now, let me clarify this, okay? Let me clarify. This is not an indictment against Islam. I'm not talking about terrorism, none of that stuff. I'm just making an observation based off of our liberal society here in America, okay? So don't be writing down, you know, you're anti. I'm just making an observation. What I am also observing is that when you look at the attacks from the left, they really go in hard on conservatives, and especially conservatives that seem to have Christian views or values. And so they're going to equate this with your religious or Christian beliefs and say, because of that, you know, you are discriminating, you know, and that kind of gives them the green light to say Christianity and discrimination goes hand in hand, you know. And so I wonder if it's not just an attack on what they feel to be discrimination, but also an attack on Christianity, you know, an attack on conservatism and conservatism. So my point is, we have to agree to disagree and not feel like the other group motivation is all hatred, and I want to see these people out of here, and I want to see them, they shouldn't even be alive. It has nothing to do with that. All decisions and feelings and beliefs are not motivated by hate. It could be something you morally just don't agree with, but you also don't judge, persecute, hate the people who do agree with it. Where the animosity kicks in is when that group decides to invade your internal moral compass and say, you know what? Not only do we want you to believe what we believe, we want you to physically manifest your support for what I do and what I believe in. Now, you're living under a society where people have to walk around on eggshells. They have to walk around with a painted on smile and act like everything that goes on in their community and society is okay. Even if they raise an eyebrow, they're like, wait a minute, why'd you raise your eyebrow? You don't like it? You know what you are? You're a xenophobe. You're a homophobe. You are all of that stuff. And these are the type of social issues, when they're thrown down the throat of a lot of Americans, cause them to start looking for alternative people that echoes their opinion, their feelings, like Donald Trump. So, if the left was smart, they would say, you know what? If we want to even have a shot at getting back into power, we need to start easing up on driving a whole bunch of these very, very small interest groups' agendas over the masses. And that's how a lot of Americans feel. It's like, yo, you're going to roll us under the bus for a very, very, very small percentage of interest groups. And yet, the last I checked, I don't know anybody personally that says, yo, Kev, what you doing today? Nothing. Listen, man, let's go downtown and jump a couple gay people. Let's beat them up, okay? Nobody's ever called me and said that. Yo, Kev, I was at the mall today, and I saw a transgender dude walk into the bathroom. And I saw, I was like, man, y'all can't come in here, man. I hate y'all. I hate y'all. I haven't heard anybody. Matter of fact, me personally, I've never even met a transgender person. I've never been in the bathroom and had a transgender person walk in, and I go, you gotta be kidding me. This guy's a transgender in my bathroom. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm not saying that this is rampant across America. Like, people are going, man, let's get him. As soon as you see one, let's just get him. So if it is happening, those individual cases, that's wrong. You shouldn't do it. You shouldn't persecute, attack or whatever. But at the same time, don't use individual cases like that to just flood the rest of the United States with making them embrace things that maybe they just personally do not agree with. And don't assign hate and discrimination and try to compare those type of issues to the civil rights movement that black people went through. That burns me up. People have to learn to own their own choices, okay? And if you make that choice to participate in same-sex marriage, by all means, it's your choice. But I don't have to agree with it. And you can't come into my business and say, not only do I want you to agree with it, but if you don't, I'm going to ruin your business. That only makes a large portion of society become very aggressive and develop animosity towards your cause. So I hope that the Supreme Court makes a wise decision, because if they side on behalf of the couple that's disagreeing with the bakery, that's going to open up a floodgate of attacks on businesses that, even if it isn't as drastic and obvious as this case, but people will be just snooping, just saying, you know what? Any little thing that I can just interpret a bit as you discriminated against me because of whatever. Because I got a gay boyfriend, or I'm gay, or I'm married to any of those things. If they're interpreting this stuff in their mind, it's going to open up the floodgates. So if it is obvious, just aggressive, violent behavior towards somebody just because of their own personal choices, yes, that's not cool. But if you try to invade other people, whether it be a business or personally, with your personal choices and thrust them upon them, I'm like, look, man, just mind your business and let me mind mine. That's all I want to do. I just want to mind my business. So anyway, you've been listening to Kevin at Kevin's Corner. Just my thoughts on it. Don't forget to subscribe, hit like, share the video. For those that have been supporting Kevin's Corner, I appreciate you. Look me up on Facebook, on Twitter, and I think that's pretty much all I'm on, and YouTube. Also, those that have been donating to Kevin's Corner, I appreciate it very, very much. There are links in the bottom to all of my other social media outlets, and also links that will allow you to donate if you choose to Kevin's Corner. So anyway, God bless. Let's continue to make America great. God bless.